Hello and welcome to Have You Got Your Shit Together with me, Caitlin O'Ryan, the podcast that celebrates not having your shit together. On today's episode, we have Eliot Salt. She is an actor and writer known for her series regular role in Netflix's Fate the Winx Saga, where she played the role of Terra. She also portrayed the role of Joanna in Hulu's smash hit series Normal People. Other TV credits include Sky's Intelligence opposite David Schwimmer and Roisin Conaty's Game Face. She's hilarious, insanely talented, and just fucking great. Just a little note for the listeners. This episode was recorded prior to the actors and writers strike, which of course we stand in solidarity with. I'm so excited about this episode. If you don't know, get to know Eliot Salt.
Sunny weather. It's like this in London, how it is now.
Except I get such bad sun poisoning that I would
What's
never
sun
be in
poisoning?
anything ever again. I actually discovered a name for it recently.
Is this a thing?
It's a thing. I looked it up. And basically it means if I get even slightly too much sun exposure, my face swells up like it's an allergy.
Fuck.
So I go really red and my face gets swollen a bit like when you get stung by, like when someone gets stung by a bee,
No
but like
way.
not quite bad enough.
How do you deal with that?
I cry a lot.
I mean, like, do you take something for it?
I just stay the fuck out of the sun.
Wow, like a vampire.
Like a vampire. We went on holiday last year and my mates called me Grandpire for the whole
Oh my God, that is so niche.
I know.
What did you type in? Just face swells up in sun?
Yeah.
Help.
And they were like, it's sun poisoning.
Sun poisoning.
And it hasn't happened to me for ages because I really like, I mean, I wear sunscreen every day
You wear a
anyway,
veil.
even in the winter. I'm like, that's the top beauty tip. I wear it genuinely every day.
Oh my God.
So you're not going to catch me out now.
No.
Because it happened when I was shooting Intelligence and for 2 of the episodes, I think, of the second series, my face is just bigger.
Because of the sun?
Yeah, but it's really annoying because it's like, it's not so bad that it's like, oh my God, that looks like prosthetics, but it's not, it's not unnoticeable. So it just sort
It's
of,
just like a heavy night and drinking when your face is just slightly puffy.
it looks like I've had a heavy year, I would say. It's like when you see someone after a while and you know that they're having a rough time and you're like, oh, you're having some late nights.
Oh God.
It's like that.
Oh my God.
And then with makeup over the top. It's just terrible.
Wow. It also just definitely doesn't sound like a thing either.
I spoke to
Guys,
my
it's sun poisoning.
I spoke to my ex recently who I was with at the time and she was so lovely. And she was like, and I was like, oh God, do you remember last time this happened? And she was like, yeah, I had to lie and say it looked fine, but you look like a Bo Selector mask.
Oh my God. Wow. That's rude.
Anyway.
Hey, Eliot Salt.
Hi, Caitlin O'Ryan.
It's
I
been a
wasn't going to
while.
say your name and then I thought it would look like I'd forgotten it.
No. You know my name. I should hope. It's been a very long time
It has.
since we have seen each other. How, like a couple of years. I believe it was probably...
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
In
went on a
South
walk
London.
in South London
We
a few years
did.
ago, didn't we?
In Streatham.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I feel like every event that we should have crossed over at in the last few years, one of us hasn't been able to make.
Yeah. Maybe we're the same person.
We're the same. No one's ever seen us in the same room.
Apart from Ant. We've actually recorded this separately.
There's just one of us running between mics at the moment and doing different grades of accent.
Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So, on a scale of shit to together,
Yeah.
how are you feeling today?
How am I feeling? I'm going to say like a solid 8.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Because I probably overestimate as a person.
Okay.
I think I would always
Optimistic.
I feel like there are different kinds of people and I'm discovering this more and more where if
Yeah.
you ask them that question, some people will go like 2 rungs below the truth and some people will go 2 above and or ish. And I
Okay.
feel like I would always up it a little bit.
So you're
because
probably at a 6, but
I'm
you're
probably
just
at a 6, but
overselling
I'm speaking it into truth.
it. Okay. Manifesting.
Yeah, exactly.
We love that.
It's the cup half full thing.
Love that.
And I've had a really good few days. I've been busy, which is, I'm learning and focusing on the fact that being like manually busy is the absolute key to keeping my brain going.
Yeah.
Because I can be admin busy and it sometimes does it, but not really.
What do you mean by manually busy?
I mean, like, so yesterday I had a lot of prep for a meeting. So that's sort of like that's brain busy. So I had to do lots of reading and watched a whole TV show, which, oh my God, if you have to cram a TV show.
Oh my God.
I hope this is going out long after I have any possibility of getting this job, by the way, because I definitely said I'd seen it ages ago. So I was...
None of it makes sense anymore. Everything just bleeds into everything.
Oh, and then in your head, you are those characters.
Yes.
So I then went to see a friend after, and it was like, who are you? Why are you?
Oh, I don't know. I'm about 10 different people at once, actually.
I know.
Wow.
And it was really good. I really enjoyed
yeah.
it. But I also had to take apart my old bed and get a new one delivered and
that's
build
the
it.
manual.
That's the manual
labor.
bit. So
manual
I feel
labor.
Yeah. So I
Yes.
feel like I'm doing my brain and my hands at the same time.
Yeah.
And that's how I need to be.
That's good.
Yeah.
I get what you mean. Because
So
sometimes you can just sit and like plan things and write things and stuff like that. And then almost I go to bed and I've still got this energy that I haven't used because like my
Yeah.
body has just been sat still and my brain is like tired, but my body isn't.
Totally. And I feel like if it's to an end, because I'm getting better at like remembering to do exercise for my brain. So I like go to the gym a fair amount now. But sometimes it's like, oh, there's no short-term reward. Whereas if I'm painting my wall or building a bed or doing something like that, I'm like, this is going to be a short-term.
You sound very handy.
The thing is, I don't think I'm handy in terms of, I'm not sure that the effect is always good.
Okay.
But I am enthusiastic about it.
That would be the optimism, the glass half.
It brings me joy. And I think even though my flat looks sort of like, it's quite shabby
chic.
in terms of the DIY element.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty nice, but it's it looks like I did it myself. But I quite like that. I think it's cozy.
That. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like nesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I've got a drawing that I did when I was 3 on a wall that I've recently painted. And a friend came over and said, I don't think you should put that because it draws the eye to the fact that your wall also looks like it was done by a child.
It's quite rude, actually.
So rude.
So on that then, what would you say having your shit together means to you?
I think it's knowing where I'm supposed to be and being there is one of them.
Okay.
Which is surprisingly difficult for me.
Okay.
Certainly being on time is very hard.
It's hard.
It's basically impossible. So I would say being within a 5-minute radius.
Which you were today, I have to say.
Thank you, Joss. Which is...
You almost headed out in the wrong direction of the radius, but you did.
Which is because Citymapper sent me in the wrong
Citymapper,
radius. Yeah. So it's that. I feel like feeling some form of emotional balance for most of the day.
Yes.
I feel like expecting it for the whole day is never going to work. But being, again, within like a 5-minute radius of content...
Yeah, love that.
Is good, I think. I think having a day that is more about hope than fear would be having my shit together for me.
I love that.
Is that the wankiest thing anyone's ever said?
No, that's a really beautiful... I wouldn't say it's wanky.
Okay.
Would I frame it and put it on my wall?
No,
maybe.
Certainly not.
No, I like that.
With next to a picture of a sunset.
Yeah, stunning. Yeah. The one that you painted.
Yeah. You can tell that I'm doing therapy now because everything I say is like... as if I bought it from one of those tiny books you buy at the counter at WH Smith.
How to Find Happiness.
Yeah.
The pocket book.
Not WH Smith, actually, Borders, R.I.P.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. Okay, so I asked you before this to bring an object that makes you feel like you've got your shit together. Do you have it? Or can you think of it?
No, I can think of it and I sort of have it.
Okay.
And this, I think, is the most boring answer you'll ever receive. But I can talk about it for a while. It's my Google Calendar. It's the only thing that makes me feel like I've got my shit together.
I love that.
Does everybody say something like that, or do they do something more interesting?
No. Listen, I'm not here to judge.
I'm so sorry.
It's interesting because you're interesting and you're about to explain it in a really interesting way, so I'm really excited to hear about it.
I can change it to something more fun.
I want the Google Calendar.
Okay.
I want the sponsorship from Google.
I just thought I'd bring truth. Maybe I'll say my general electronic calendar.
I love that.
Okay.
Yeah,
just so that we've got a version that's not siding with a large corporation. I love that I can colour coordinate it. It makes me feel like I can see what I'm doing in the room. Thank you so much. That I can see, and I've sort of put it in terms of writing, in terms of acting, in terms of social. Wow. And I'm like, I can see when I'm lacking doing one enough.
That's like balance.
Balance.
You can see your balance in colours.
Yeah, and blue is like sort of boring admin or the gym. Okay. So I'm like, there should be a couple of blue blobs in there.
Boring colour.
Yeah. And then like orange for family stuff. So laughing because it's boring? Are you going to have to cut all
I'm
this
just
out?
laughing at like why you've chosen the colours for each thing.
Yeah, it's
like,
true, isn't it?
It's just interesting.
It's partly because they have to correspond well with each other.
So much thought has been put into this.
No, and it makes me so happy, and I'm so sorry if you've had so many people switch off or skip.
No.
Maybe you could add in something in post that's like, Eliot stops talking about her calendar at like 4 minutes.
Skip ahead.
So if you've lost the will to live, please skip ahead. No, I love it. And I have like chronic disorganization. It's been a real problem. Like, ooh, my voice just cracked with emotion. I'm terribly disorganized there.
Talking about your calendar.
But you'll know this from me, even as a kid, that I was late for everything, every single time.
Yeah.
Anytime we had a rehearsal.
But so was I. I think we arrived
it.
at the same time because we were both late. So I didn't notice, actually.
But then I also think I was vindicated by the fact that I was also the last to be picked up every time. So I'm like, well, it's clear where I got that from.
Calling out the parents there.
I know, absolutely dragging Chris and Sean. Who send their love, by the way?
Oh, thank you. Send it back.
Yeah, so it genuinely is a lifeline, and I used to love having a paper diary and stuff, and I would just leave that or lose it. So having something that's going to be on me, it genuinely brings me joy and balance, makes me feel like I've got my shit together.
Well, because I was going to ask, like, why not the physical? But is that because you would just misplace it, or?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, or I'd be like, oh, let me get back to you because my diary's at home, so I'll have a look at it and then I'll fill it in, and then I just never got back to people.
I have this issue where every, like, Christmas, the one thing that I'm most excited about is getting, like, a little diary because I'm like, new year, new me, I'm going to be so organised.
It's going to be filled in so well.
And then I would say for about a week, I've like have all of my things in there, all of my meetings, all of my little thoughts. And then like 2 weeks later, I'm like, well, that was that.
Yeah, I've never
Misplaced.
ever been somebody who could like write my thoughts and feelings in a diary
Yeah.
because I'm too self-conscious. So I feel like if I write them, that I've always got an element of like, what if somebody finds this tomorrow?
Yeah.
So it's got to be like A, well written, and B, like not horrible or embarrassing in any way. And then basically what you're doing is like, I had unspecified meal today.
Like a spy. Or you're like writing it really eloquently. Like you think that you're like the Bridget Jones, the next Bridget Jones, that people are going to enjoy it. Tell a few jokes.
Yeah.
Just for
it's
potential.
Just me being sort of vague about my thoughts and feelings, but really descriptive about like a time when I was sat on the bus looking out of the window, you know, and I don't think anyone needs that in their lives.
So the Google Calendar.
The hard, cold, unsentimental Google Calendar.
But coloured, which makes it accessible.
It is.
And enjoyable. It brings a bit of joy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm really sorry that that's what I brought. I regret it so instantly.
Don't. This is a podcast about truth and honesty. And you're boring as fuck and people need to know this.
But I don't know what else. Genuinely, what people brought.
So there's been quite a few journals.
Yeah.
And that tends to be with like writers, really, that it's like a process of,
Okay, I feel less boring now. No offense to them. But like, that's the same thing, isn't
it's
it?
this, well, it's different because yours is just dates. Dates and times.
Okay, but it's also people and places
and things.
And what else is there really in the world? Yeah, you're right.
It's useful though because you can track back and you'd be like, I had a lovely podcast time with Kate in.
Yeah,
like, you know, it's quite nice.
You're in there.
You should frame it.
Thank you. I will
It's
not.
a coping mechanism though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a way of like knowing that you're kind of busy, but you're not busy.
It's the illusion of togetherness.
Yeah.
To be fair, when I start to feel, because I'm fucking terrible at being organised, and like so this week, for example, I'm going away on Friday for a while, and I've been trying to jam everything in this week, and it's been living hypothetically in my head, and like that is chaos.
Oh, I
and
can't,
actually,
yeah.
what I need is to see it like visually.
Physically.
Yeah, so
And
it
then-
makes sense.
And then also when you've controlled it, it's that as well. It's like this is the
You've
scary,
tamed the
massive
beast.
week. Yeah, and now I'm like, I've put a little collar on you.
I got you.
Yeah, and then you have to tell me half an hour before you happen so that I can be there. Obviously, half an hour late because I needed to leave an hour in advance usually,
of
but
course.
still.
Listen,
Do you not have the thing where you go, this is where I'm going to, and this is where I'm going to be, and it goes, you should leave at this time.
Stop it.
because that's a Google Calendar thing, babes.
Yeah.
As a Google advocate.
That is why I'm early 99% of the time.
I got it today for coming here.
It's
It's like you
fucking
need to
great.
leave in 9 minutes.
Oh, this is a game changer.
And if you do that, then you can also do lists of lists, and you'll feel super organised.
And now we have lost half the people listening.
I'm so excited.
Moving on. Can you please tell me about a time in your life where you felt like you really had your shit together?
Oh, God, that's a good question. I don't know if I've ever completely felt that. I think I'm quite like, I try not to think, and I don't think, but I don't think in terms of eras, because I think sometimes that's like madness lies there, doesn't it?
Yes.
Because then it's like, oh, when I was 24,
Yeah.
like,
Is 24 an era?
well, I don't know.
A segment of life.
I guess for me it is, because it's like the bit before I don't know. Okay, so like being at drama school, or the bit after I was at drama school before I started working more, or like when I was with that person or this person. Like, I find it stressful to think of things in those terms, because then you get a kind of like
chapters.
And also like an accidentally sort of maybe a kind of melancholy about it,
Wistful.
or wistful, or like a nostalgia, or like a kind of burying, like if you overthink about some stuff, I don't know. So I think I try and see that there's good and bad in every section. So I think if I go through those kind of examples, I think there were times when I really felt like I had my shit together within them all. And I think they can be very fleeting and lovely. Like, I'm trying to think of a good example, but sometimes I can have like very uneventful days, and it will be something like if I've just done an audition and it's like gone quite well, and I'm like, there's a world in which I've got this, and I won't know for at least a week.
So you're just
probably
allowing
more.
yourself to live in the potential.
Yeah, I'm allowing myself to live in the possibility that like my summer's sorted.
Yeah, and you're going to be going to like Marbella to film.
Yeah, but kidding, I've never gone anywhere. Just a shout out to Dublin and only Dublin, which actually is interesting.
And Wales,
it's a delight.
no.
Oh, and Wales, true. Belfast one time, push the boat out. Yeah, so like something like that. I've like done a bunch of writing in the morning, so I feel like I've done something.
Grounding.
Yeah, and then I've got like a nice social plan in the evening. I feel like I've got my shit together when I've got a balance of possibility and like gentle good times.
Yeah. So something quite structured in terms of writing, and something that is tangible, and then hopefulness of like potential.
Yeah, getting that past, present, future balance going as well. It's all the different kinds of balance.
That's really lovely.
Yeah. Because I think I could go, oh, when I got my first job or something, I really was like, oh, everything's going to be different, and I've like got my shit together. And but I'm sure at the time, if I really thought about it, it was like, oh, but also like I was having an argument with my best mate at the time.
That's it, isn't it? There's always like one thing might be in check, but then something else is unraveling somewhere else.
Yeah. So I think it's just enjoying the shorter moments of feeling like it, rather than the like grand sweeping ones.
Yeah. It's allowing yourself to exist in like the now more, actually, rather than what you're saying is like casting back and like that time when, you know, I graduated and got my first job or something. But like you say, that is so fleeting, and for me, like when that happens, it's met with immediate anxiety.
Yeah.
Whereas like something quite simple like what you're explaining is very doable and tangible. And
yeah.
I
mean, and it's even that is kind of a challenge to get to for me, definitely at times, is to feel like I've done the right amount of work and I'm seeing people the right amount, and like have enough in the pipeline. It's like basically a life's work to get to ever feel that way. So I think in the moments when I do, I really try and be like,
I've definitely mentioned this before in the podcast, but like there's like a term in CBT which is called ACE, and it's I always forget what it means. Not an analogy, but each letter means something.
Yeah.
And an acronym. Oh my god, this is a repeat from a different episode. But yeah, an acronym, and it's like achievement, connection, and closeness, and enjoyment. And if you have those three things in like existence within a day or something, then you can be happy. Yeah. Because you've like kind of felt like you've achieved something, you've been close to someone, you've seen someone, and you've done something enjoyable.
Oh, I really like that.
Yeah, it's lovely, isn't it? It just feels very doable.
Yeah, that's similar to one I've heard recently, which is creativity, connection, and transcendence are the things that you need for joy.
Talk to me about transcendence.
So transcendence is that feeling where you can be doing, I mean, this is what I took from it, and I've only been told it once, so it takes a while for things to seep in sometimes. But my interpretation is that it's when you're doing something and you sort of aren't thinking about anything except that thing. So you slightly, so if you're talking to somebody and you're having a real like connection and having a really nice conversation, and you're not really thinking about like what you're going to say next, or what the person on the next table's doing or whatever, which I find very difficult. And or if you're doing a nice activity that you enjoy, and so you're very absorbed in it. I think it's that kind of thing.
It's like flow state.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. What was that?
I don't know what the acronym is. I'm CCT, I guess.
CCT. And what's
Yeah.
it stand for?
Creativity, connection, and transcendence.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also different. Okay, in opposition to that then, a time in your life where you felt like you really didn't have your shit together.
Yeah, I mean, similar answer really. It's kind of always and never. So like, I'm sure they've been awful. I mean, I think every time I've left a big thing, I've felt that way, apart from school.
Okay.
Because I was thrilled.
Stepping out of like
Yeah.
an institution.
Yeah, both times I've left.
Yeah.
When I left primary school and when I left secondary school, I was like, this is so good. I'm so happy.
I'm ready, baby.
I'm ready for the next thing. Get me out of here. But when I left uni, because I loved being uni.
Yeah. You went to Bristol Uni.
I did.
Yeah.
And I met lots of lovely people.
Yeah.
But I had a kind of a weird final year where loads happened to me kind of personally that was really good and really bad. And by the end, I think I was just like emotionally and mentally splattered.
Yes.
And also I really remember that feeling of like, it's like somebody, because you're so young then, it's such a big chunk of your existence.
Yeah. And it's really like the moment where you have become an adult, because like, even though you feel like leaving college, you're a bit of an adult, but like, you know, it's the first time that you've lived alone and learned how to like cook for yourself and clean for yourself. And then coming out the other side of that is like the final foray into, I don't know, existence.
Yeah.
Like,
but I think I really remember feeling like, oh, but this was my life. I'd found it at last after kind of all of this growing up and always feeling, which I guess I know everybody does, is like feeling like you're not quite finished or you're not quite in the right place, or apart from people who thrive in high school, and God bless, good for them, but that was not me.
Peaked in high school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think just feeling a bit wrong. And then I think it was the first time where I was like, oh, I kind of am starting to get who I am and what makes me happy and who makes me happy. And
then you pushed out.
And then it's like somebody just comes and steals your whole life. I'm like, you've stolen my city, my friends, my routine, all the stuff I like doing. And I was so busy during uni. Yeah. Which, as we've discussed already, is the thing that keeps me afloat. So
you were so creative at uni, like
which I think makes me very happy. And I also found people who wanted to be creative with me and who I still am with a lot. But like, I think that's probably one of the lowest I felt. And like, and I applied to drama school and didn't get in. Yeah. And I just didn't really have anything lined up. And I moved back to Bristol to do a job working on like a reception desk, which actually is a lovely job, but
serving you very well now.
But I was rubbish at it. Basically, I didn't want to be like, oh, and it was awful to be doing that job. But I think I could have got a lot more out of it had I been in the right headspace. And also the people were so not very nice to me. And I'm sure they had their reasons for that, because I super didn't want to be there, and I must have had a bit of an attitude about that. But like, they all had a WhatsApp group without me. And one time I went into the there was like a little kitchenette next to the office, because it was me on reception and then a bunch of office desks doing a different job. I don't want to be too obvious about what it was, but they there were two people in the kitchen. I went in to make a cup of tea, and one of them, they didn't acknowledge me, and one of them said to the other, "This kitchen's not really big enough for 3 people, is it?"
Oh my God. That's rude.
Oh, and it was just so bleak. And my partner at the time was still at uni, so I was like seeing them, but
and they're still like kind of in the happy place.
Exactly. And then you're like, oh, I'm just like the horrible sort of aging weirdo that's still here and dragging down your lovely fun. And that was quite a bad time.
Yeah. So weird, isn't it, that like, because obviously you zoom out now and you just think, well, that was like a blip in the ocean of your life, and now you're in like a much better place, whatever. Because I have a similar thing where like I was at college and applied for drama school and didn't get in, and had to take a year out living in Oldham, and literally I felt like the walls were closing in and I was so miserable, and I was like, I'm never going to get out of it. And it just becomes like overwhelmingly sad. And now I look back.
Sorry.
I look back to it and I was like, that's actually quite a nice time in my life.
I know, because you still don't massively have too many pressures on you.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough that I did the same. I moved back home for a bit, and I wasn't. I was very fortunate that I wasn't sort of pushed to or in a rush to stand on my own 2 feet, particularly. But I think, it's just horrible when you've been doing it and then it gets taken away.
What do you think was like getting you through that time?
Well, lots of things. I mean, I'm really lucky. I've got a lovely family who were really supportive, and my friends were, and my partner at the time. But I think I had some kind of hope that it was going to work out, which I've always slightly had.
Yeah.
Which again is probably a product of lots of different kinds of privilege. But I have always been like, no, it's going to be all right. And I am good. So this is going to be okay.
Seed of belief in yourself.
Yeah, which is so bizarre.
Which we have to have in this industry. It's so mad, isn't it?
But no matter how sort of, like at times when it's so unvalidated, you're standing at the back of the ensemble for year after year.
They'll notice me eventually.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the best ensemble number 32 ever.
Yeah, exactly. Doing my one line. Being killed off in various periods.
Put all of your character into that one line. They'll notice me.
So even after all of that, I was like, no, but I'm sick.
Yeah. Fair fucks.
So I think there was a bit of me that was like, also my mum sat me down that year. Because I think I've got a big self-sabotage streak. And my mum...
It's like you have two devils. One's like super hopeful.
Yeah.
Everything's going to work out. And the other one's like the devil, just sabotaging.
Yeah. And then it's like, yeah, but don't try too hard because then you'll be sure it won't.
Oh.
You know, if you fail and you've really tried.
Yeah.
Terrifying.
That's the worst.
So I think I'd been a bit self-sabotagey the year before, definitely. And my mum sat me down and said, I think you're really good. And I think you're really talented and I love you so much, but you really could be a nearly person because you don't try hard enough.
Wow.
And I was
Truth bomb,
brutal from Sean. But it really, I was like, oh my God, she's absolutely right.
Yeah.
So I think that, a combination of lots of support and some hope and a big kick up the arse probably.
Yeah. That really resonates. Like that thing of don't try too hard, because at least if you don't get it, then you won't be disappointed because you always knew that like you weren't going to get it anyway.
Yeah, you held a little bit back.
Yeah.
You haven't given which I think is hard. I don't know, because I can only speak to it from a creative perspective, but it feels like you give so much of yourself all the time. And sometimes it's like, I just want to keep a little bit back.
Yeah.
In case of rejection.
But then it still fucking hurts when you get rejected anyway.
Of course.
Like,
even though they've only rejected like one version of you really that you like only gave sort of 5%.
Not an accurate representation of yourself.
Exactly.
It is mad that we do that. Hey, Ant.
Hey.
You do a great job in editing this podcast, might I say. If people like the podcast, what do they need to do?
Like it.
What else?
Follow it on social media.
And then what?
They could share it with every single person they know.
Thanks, Ant. You can go back to your corner now.
Bye.
3 things that make you feel like shit.
Coffee.
Okay.
Yeah, because it doesn't work well with my heart rate and therefore like anxiety level.
Really?
Yeah. I was speaking about this in an interview this morning. It keeps coming up.
So you don't drink coffee?
No.
Wow.
No, I had to give it up. And my wonderful pal, Soph, who I lived with after I left drama school, genuinely sat me down and was like, mate, you can't drink coffee anymore because it makes you so upset.
Oh my God.
It sort of got to the point where, I mean, I don't think this would happen after one, but definitely after a few, it was like, I get so anxious and then completely existential. It really jumped straight away.
Wow, yeah.
And yeah, so coffee.
Wow, I had one this morning and immediately I was having my hair cut. I went
Which
to the
looks
hairdresser
lovely, by the way.
Thank you so much.
I didn't say because I think I'd have remembered to say if it had been
Looked
as bad as you
awful.
trailed.
Yeah.
But it's actually lovely.
Well, I went in
Really suits
and I asked for like a trim and she was like, I'm going to give you a French bob. And I was like, oh, it sounds sexy. Yes, please. And then like I looked down at my phone and the next minute I looked up and she'd like really chopped it off. And I sent Eliot a picture this morning of the sister in Fleabag when she gets exactly what she asked for, because that's essentially what I got. I was disappointed. But yeah, I had a coffee before that and the anxiety levels were through the roof. And then coming here, I was like, oh, maybe I need another coffee. And I was like, no, because I'll just be sat there thinking, Elliot's having a terrible time.
Oh no.
Like the self-projections will just be like...
Well, know that if ever you do feel like that, it's sort of a solid 60-40, 60 in favour of me thinking exactly the same thing.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so no coffee. So how do you, if you're tired, how do you wake up?
sort of anxiety, I think,
Yeah,
actually.
fair fucks.
Whatever the
Good old-fashioned natural.
people pleasing keeps
Yes,
me going.
yes.
No, what does?
Sleep.
I'm quite a good sleeper.
I'm
I know
not.
that's such an annoying, smug thing to say. Yeah.
I've heard that an apple has the same amount of caffeine in than coffee.
It can't have. It might have.
I have silenced the room.
I don't want to
Or it
dismiss
has
that out of hand.
some. My friend Sammy said it to me, and she's a reliable source.
I can imagine it might have the same amount of energy in a different way.
But what is energy? Not caffeine. Is it not the same thing?
Surely
it's
not
not vitamin
caffeine.
energy.
Because otherwise we'd be having like apple espressos, right?
Maybe
Sure, they
that's too
probably
much
are, aren't they?
caffeine. For the listener, Ant has just googled.
No, fact checking.
We know caffeine is the buzzy substance found in coffee, and although everyone tolerates it differently, 1 cup may keep you awake for 12 hours. And although apples are great sources of fibre and vitamin C, they don't contain caffeine.
Right, so I've been
Might want to have
cancelled.
have a word with your friend.
I've been eating a fucking shit ton of apples recently. Trying to get that sweet buzz.
Absolutely buzzing off your tits on an apple.
So much fibre, let me tell you. Okay, moving swiftly on. 2 more things that make you feel like shit.
Off the top of my head, God, caffeine really came to me quickly. When you tell a joke and it doesn't land,
Oh my God, yes.
that's a day ruiner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you're a very funny person.
Thank you so much.
So I'd say like 70% of your jokes must land. So
70. Wow.
that's quite high.
That's ruined my day.
80 or 90. 90%. 95% of your jokes.
Okay, listen.
So when it doesn't, that must hit hard.
it's when you think they're going to.
Yeah.
That's,
Do you know what's worse? Is when someone is like, sorry, what? I missed that.
and
And then you have to say it
you've got
again.
repeat
And
the
like,
joke.
this happened to me yesterday. I said something really funny, and a guy that I was with was like, what? Said it again. He was like, sorry, no, I can't hear you. I said it again. I was like, by the 4th time, I was like, it's not funny anymore.
Can I change my answer to telling jokes on Zoom?
Yes.
Because that's exactly what it is. That's often
The
when
comic
it doesn't land,
timing.
the timing is out. Somebody will start to say something as you say the joke and then be like, I'm so sorry. I went on a Zoom interview for a job this morning
God.
and I did that. I made a joke as soon as it started and she started speaking and she's like, so sorry.
So sorry.
And then I went, it doesn't, you know what? It
But then it's
doesn't matter
rude.
at all.
It's rude to not repeat yourself.
I know, because
they've
then it
asked
sounds
you
like I've been
to.
shady.
Yeah.
But I panicked and I was like, I can't possibly do this joke again because it's humiliating. So I was just like, oh, do you know what? It doesn't matter. How are you? And she looked like, wow, this woman has come onto a Zoom and bitched about me instantly.
Oh,
and then
my God.
it was like I'd muttered something under my breath or something.
That's hell.
Horrifying.
That is hell.
And then I was so perky and positive for the rest of the Zoom to try and make up for it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, jokes on Zoom.
Yeah. Jokes on Zoom.
Really grim.
Yeah.
Um,
Which was, prolific during lockdown.
absolutely
Jokes on Zoom.
the only form of
Did you
joke.
see any of the stand-up comedians doing comedy sets on Zoom?
No, I didn't.
Can't think of anything worse. Muting everyone. Did you ever have that where like I did a few, like we played Mafia on Zoom
Fun.
over lockdown, which was very fun. But I was like the host and I did it as different themes. So one day I was dressed up as Joe Exotic and I was really giving it my all. And all of my friends were sat there. There was about 20 people on Zoom, all muted. So I'd be like telling these jokes to like a silent room in my sister's bedroom with my mum and dad downstairs.
What a horrible time that
Hell,
was.
it was hell. It was hell.
Also, Zoom auditions, which is
Zoom
still
auditions.
a thing.
Still a thing.
How?
I had to do
Why?
one where I was like improvising with a casting director, and he was reading the lines and then expected me to interject, but when I interjected, it like cut off his audio, so it was just like so like stagnant. It was awful.
That is, that's dreadful. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
cringe
Okay,
city.
that's
2.
That's 2. 3. Letting people down makes me feel like shit. I get very anxious about that. The idea that somebody expects me to do something and then I haven't been able to do it, or I've or if I feel like I've underperformed. Oh, here's one.
Okay.
That feeling when you arrive at an event, especially if you've been looking forward to it, and I get this feeling sometimes where I've not quite landed. I feel like I'm sort of circling the runway. And I'm slightly on autopilot, but I've not quite arrived. And there's nothing I can do to make myself arrive into the room. I think that That makes me feel like shit.
What is that? Is that like an anxious thing in terms of like who's there or like what they might think of you or sort of stuff, or just literally that like?
I think sometimes it's that.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it will be because sometimes it happens after I've been at work or been at something where I've had to be very on,
and then it's like the switch.
I can't quite switch back into like real life. And yeah, I guess sometimes it's just when you're in your own head too much, basically.
Yeah.
And then you feel like you can't quite connect enough to enjoy yourself.
Yeah. And then it's drawing to an end.
Yeah.
And then you've kind of missed the thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or it's sort of, you sort of arrive at like 11 and the pub's about to close. And I'm like, oh man.
And everyone's on like a different level than you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I feel that for sure.
Yeah. So I've given 2 lights and 1 heavy. I think that's all right.
That is this podcast.
Yeah.
We're up, we're down. We're here, we're there.
Yeah.
Apples don't have caffeine. 3 things that make you feel like the shit.
Oh, okay, so that bit where you're at like a dinner or at the pub and there's like a kind of groove of socializing that you get into sometimes where suddenly it feels like you're like on a smooth little slide, you know?
And party slide.
Oh yeah, I'm like, oh, I'm managing this easily.
Yeah.
It's with people that I like know or have really clicked with, and it's like we're really vibing off each other, and there's like a good connection, and all the jokes are landing, and everybody's having a nice time, and you feel like you're contributing to that. That's the sweet spot for me. That's like my happy
That's kind of like
place.
the transcendent thing that you were saying.
Totally.
Yeah.
I suspect all these things will be transcendent
Yes.
things. Yeah.
We transcend.
Yeah.
Being in the moment with people and
Love that.
Yeah.
Really
very,
like
very
that.
present.
Yeah. It's kind of like the kind of happy, fun vibe without it tipping into like hysteria.
Yep.
No, before it starts being like
Chaos.
Yeah, chaos, where you've like gone slightly off the rails. What it is being exactly on the rails, but having a lovely time.
Yeah. Great. Love that one.
Yeah, that's definitely my top one. Making people laugh in general. Yeah, I'm gonna say makes me feel like the shit. I think the that's kind of is it the same answer? I don't know.
No, I think it's different.
Yeah, that's always nice when because you can. It's an involuntary thing, especially when you can tell it's not like a polite one.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's so lovely.
Yeah.
And
you've always been very good at that, though.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I think so. I mean, we've known each other for how long? Like since we were about 10?
Yeah.
So we were in my first play together at Oldham Theatre Workshop, which your dad wrote.
Was that the first one?
Yeah, that was my first one.
Right.
Yeah, had my little singing solo.
Yes, you did. Smashed it.
I was shitting myself so much. But yeah, I always remember I remember when we went away to do like a writing workshop. This is like one of my fondest memories of you when we were doing that Our Town. And we were like sharing a room together and we were listening to like Heart FM.
Yeah.
Like all night to the point where the next morning we were like hungover, even though we weren't. But we've just been having so much fun.
Listening to Heart.
Yeah, Heart.
We've got many
bangers.
sponsors of this episode.
Yeah.
Google Cal and Heart. Coming in
They're
strong.
good ones.
Yeah.
If you could drop some more names.
I will.
Yeah. But yeah, no. That's always been something that I associate with you, is just a great sense of humour, a great laugh,
such
great
a
time.
lovely thing to say. Thank you.
Land 95% of the time.
You win a percentage that has been up, and I hope that you haven't edited that out, and I hope that the record stands of what you really think.
You've made me laugh quite a few times since then, so I'm happy to push it up a bit. Yeah,
push my grade up.
Yeah, one more thing that makes you feel like the shit.
I think I'd have to go back to like completing a DIY task.
Okay.
I think that makes me feel like the shit. I feel like if I've visually accomplished something, if it's like a piece of art or like constructed something or finished painting.
Yeah.
Especially if I've like listened to a podcast such as this one whilst doing it.
Great plug, thank you.
I've drifted off. Like that feeling afterwards of like accomplishment and peace.
Yeah.
Which I get a bit from exercise sometimes, but I'm not
being
very
in your body, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean I'm not a naturally athletic person, so it's a bit hit or miss with me.
But I think it's
like
that
the gym,
thing of what you were saying about like by the end of like, you know, you go to the gym and you look the same when you leave.
Yeah.
You've got to be doing it for like a good solid few months to feel.
Totally.
But like if you're like building something, then you've made something.
Yeah, which is why I quite like weights now at the gym, because if I've lifted something, if I've done something that is bigger than I did last time. That's like a quick gain.
That's good. Yeah.
So I'm like, oh, I can leave with a sense of satisfaction, even though I
Yeah.
obviously look exactly the same.
Yeah.
I know that something has changed.
I know.
Yeah. I know I couldn't have done this last week or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. What's your favorite thing to make? Do you like IKEA, or is it more like...
Yesterday was like a sort of IKEA adjacent. It wasn't an
What do you mean
it wasn't an official IKEA product, but it was
Okay.
a flat pack.
A flat pack.
Flat pack
okay.
bed I made yesterday.
Yeah.
I moved into a new place last year, so I'm like painting.
Mm-hmm.
So I love doing that.
Yeah.
And then for like less DIY things, I got really into, because obviously everybody developed really niche skills and hobbies during lockdown. I got really into collaging. So sometimes I crack that out.
Oh, talk to me about your collages.
They have no rhyme or reason whatsoever, but I just sort of cut stuff up that I now have like more than one box in my house that's full of like...
You've got crafty boxes.
Crafty boxes with like scissors and glue and like old magazines.
Wow.
And sort of cut up colours or scenes or whatever.
Wow.
But yeah.
You're just an artist.
I'm such an artist, and they are obviously high works of art that I've started an Instagram for. Kidding. I would never. No, it's way too embarrassing. They're not good.
I want to see them.
No.
I want one.
I can certainly provide you with one.
Can you?
Yeah.
It's my birthday soon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got quite a good one then of a birthday pigeon. So
I want it.
okay. I'm going to have a look and see if I can find it.
Thank you. Okay, something that makes you lose your shit in a positive and a negative way.
One of each.
Yes.
These questions are quite hard.
On the spot as well.
I know.
Yeah.
I hope I'm doing all right.
You're doing
I feel
great.
very like. Also, I'm really worried of doing that thing. You know, where you're under pressure, and usually it's not recorded, and usually it'd be like on a date or something.
Yeah.
People ask you stuff, and I find myself just saying things that are like not really true, just to have said it.
Yeah.
And do you know what? I was making a mental list last night of things that make me feel happy easily, and one of them is period dramas that I forgot I watched as a teen or as a child.
Okay.
Because I used to love them, obviously, because as we know, I was the coolest kid around. And there's something really nice about, I mean, I had period drama in my head because that's one of the ones I did recently, but I think it can be any show that I've really enjoyed in the past and I've forgotten about.
Yeah.
And so it's either still very good and I've got like, oh, this reminds me of this thing, and like, oh, I'm remembering. There's something really nice about like the overlap of not remembering something at all, but it all being really familiar.
Yeah.
And so you're enjoying it on two levels. I really like that as a sweet spot.
So what kind of show?
There was a really specific version of Anne of Green Gables, which was made in the 80s. And
wow,
we had on
that is niche and
we had on
nerdy.
We had on DVD. You can't get it anywhere. I actually had to really hunt this down. This was quite soon after this was during quite a difficult moment. And I was like, I really need something that is going to be so uncontroversial, will make me feel only peace. And I had a brainwave and I was like, the 1985 Anne of Green Gables Canadian adaptation miniseries.
Yeah.
Guys, if you can track it down online, A, good luck to you, and B, if you're anything like me, it will bring you so much joy.
Wow. I feel like sometimes with those kinds of things, because you kind of have a sentimental attachment to it, you get something out of it. I've definitely done that before. I was like, guys, we need to watch this. Honestly, it's fucking amazing. Like, it was the best thing ever. And then you're like rewatching it, and you're watching it with someone new, and kind of watching it through their eyes, and then suddenly you're like, oh God.
Well, okay.
What have I done?
I will say, generationally, I would be surprised if I'm the only person that knew about this.
Okay.
I feel like this.
What generation are you a part of?
We are extremely close in age. Just want to remind everybody.
I'm the generation after, I think. There was that line between us.
Of a few months. No, I really think it was a thing.
Okay.
If anybody knows what I'm talking about, please reach out.
Yes.
But also I don't need you to, because it brought me joy simply.
Listen, be confident
and
in
if
your
I'm
decision.
alone there,
yeah.
that's fine. You know who I haven't asked if she remembers is my sister Nancy, because she definitely will. So, you know.
Well, that's the same
Nancy,
household.
please comment if this has been made a grid.
Bye,
Back me up.
Nancy. You were always the cooler one, Nancy. Don't give in to Eliot.
That's why I need your support.
Okay. Okay, something that makes you lose your shit in a negative way then.
You know what? This is boring, and I wish if I come up with something quippy later, I'll add it on.
We can make you sound quippy.
Thank you so much. But for me, and everybody does this sometimes.
Caveat.
And I know I've done this, and it's a very last minute flake.
A last minute flake.
Really last min.
Yeah, I feel that in my soul, actually.
Yeah. Because, and I've got better at this because I've learned that people have, it's a bit like, I've tried to equate it with my chronic lateness because it does tend to be the usual customers with it, right?
Yes.
So I'm trying to like reassign it where I'm like, this is not something anybody wants to be. Nobody wants to be late. Nobody wants to be a serial flake.
No one wants flaky in their adjectives.
And I think I do mean a serial last minute flaker.
Yes.
I think a one-off is absolutely fine. We've all been there. A serial last minute flake, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What's this about? But I'm trying to realign it. I'm trying to reframe it in my head as like, this is just a natural flaw that some people have, and that's okay.
And maybe it's a product of anxiety.
Totally.
However, it is frustrating twofold.
Yeah.
The first fold is that it's just frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
The second fold, if it's a serial one, is fool me once, shame on you.
Yeah.
Fool me twice.
Shame on me.
Shame on me
This is
for
the
ever
problem.
thinking that you weren't going to fucking flake.
That's exactly it.
and
That is
and I'm just
exactly the
like,
problem.
why did I think?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And the thing is, I have a lot of sympathy for it because I think
Yeah.
sometimes you're like, oh, I can't do it. And, you know, as you say, it is a product of anxiety or a host of other things.
Yeah.
But selfishly, just to not be a nice person for a second, even though this is on the internet, I am like, come on, man. Because also I visualise the evening.
Me too.
I've been building to it.
Yeah.
Maybe I've done something I don't like to do that day, and I've been able to do it because I know that a nice thing is happening.
Yeah. My thought behind it is they know that they're going to flake earlier, but it's the people pleasy thing that has stopped them from saying it until the last moment, which I understand, but it's more frustrating. Just tell me the day before.
Yeah.
There's something inside you that you know you're not going to make that thing.
Yeah. And I will say, as a caveat, which you may well cut out, is if you're listening to this and I've done it to you, I'm really sorry, and I'm a huge hypocrite. But I don't think I don't think that's a characteristic of mine.
No.
And also, if you're somebody who's listening and you think this is about you, it's not. Don't worry about it. I love you.
Although it might be. Just don't flake again, and that is how you'll find out.
Well, I'm very forgiving of it, but I will have it will make me lose my shit for like a solid 20 minutes to half an hour of grumble. And then I'll be like,
move forwards.
I'm sure they've got a good reason. I'm going to make another plan, or I'm going to have a nice night in.
And it's just disappointment, isn't it? It's because we love that person and we want to spend time with that flaky person.
Of course. I'm so worried now.
I love you.
I love you so much.
Okay, a moment you found some shit out about yourself.
Oh, I feel like I have moments now where I can feel that I've progressed, which is nice. So, is this a literal like I've found out
No, not
a
necessarily.
piece of info?
I mean, if you have that.
Like, that's not my grandma, that kind of vibe.
I mean, it's very open to interpretation. And if that is something that resonates with you, I would love to hear that story.
No, that hasn't. There's nothing like that.
I would say it's more of an internal journey.
More of an internal journey,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So, I'm back in the dating scene.
Watch out, world.
Watch out, world. So, I've been on a few dates and you know, lots of good, lots of bad within them.
Yes.
But the first one I went on, it was like really lovely, but not like a vibe particularly, right?
Fine.
And because it's been a very long time since I've dated, last time I was dating was like that I was going on multiple dates, I would say, was probably about 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. So it was interesting to see how I handled the fact that it wasn't really feeling like a vibe. Because I feel like even like maybe not even that long ago, because there was a little gap where I went on like 1 or 2. And I feel like I would have tried much harder for much longer.
Yes.
And would have got much drunker and made other decisions, right?
Yes.
And
this is resonating.
yeah,
with,
totally. Yeah. Okay, so I'm like, it was really interesting to come to a point now where I'm going on those dates and I'm like, oh, you're so nice and great. And there's so much that I should be into, but it's just not taking every box or taking enough of them.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to like have a lovely chat and then be like, big love and luck to you.
Yeah.
you know.
Did you actually say that?
No, I'm way more. You know what? I wish. I've done some very panic hearty hugs.
It is hard to get out of the situation though, isn't it? Because I'm the
Yeah.
same. I had a situation recently where it was similar, and I just had this moment where I was like, there was like two Caitlyns in that moment, and I was like, me 3 or 4 years ago would have been like desperate to have a nice time and to like people please and to like make this night go on for longer and like drink more to make myself feel more comfortable because I didn't feel like it was going very well, and like make that person like me. And then I had this moment whilst I was on the date and I just was like, Caitlin, but do you even like him?
Yes. But
and I was like, no, I don't. And then I was like, cool, then go home.
Yeah.
Don't have another drink. That's fine.
It's exactly that.
It's so weird.
And do you think that's because we like ourselves more now?
I think it is. And I think it's like, I think it's an age thing. It's having been around the block a bit more. So you, for me anyway, because obviously I am in the heterosexual pool. Is that what I mean? Yes. So I'm having to deal with men.
Yeah.
And so there's things where I've like, it's like repeat patterns. And so quite quickly I'm like, you're doing that thing that person did and that didn't go very well. So red flags, if you will. Not to overuse that term. But I also think regardless of like in the past, if I'd have seen those red flags, I'd have still been like, but I am the person who will fix you because like I need you to like me. Whereas I think this time I was way more just like, I actually don't need to prove anything, and
totally.
Therefore, like I probably will just go and
I think it's remembering that they are auditioning for you as much as you're auditioning for them.
Yeah.
And it's like, because we're so used to being on one side of it, I think as well. It's so like I just slip. It's so easy to, which I still do, which I'm trying to work on, but maybe I don't need to. But like slip into professional kind of tap dancey entertainment mode, which I think is fine for certain occasions, but it does sort of prevent you from remembering to check in with yourself.
Definitely. I also think it's a product of like perhaps the way that we have been socialized in terms of like it is our responsibility to make sure that everyone is comfortable and having a nice time, because I really was feeling that. And like what I have started to notice about myself is that I am a great facilitator on a date. Like maybe it's a product of this podcast actually, but like as soon as it starts to drop, I've got another question. I'm gonna keep that ball in the air just because I'm trying to make it okay for everyone.
Totally.
But then it's exhausting, especially when you're not getting met with that same investment. And I just had this moment where I was like, I don't want to do that. If someone's literally not giving me anything, then I'd rather save that energy.
And to be honest, even if they are, I think I've been quite fortunate in that people generally are, but I'm like, that doesn't mean I need to be here until 2 a.m.
Yes.
You know, it's like, it's okay for this to be just this.
Yeah.
And not need to win the date. I think I've moved out of needing to win the date now.
Yeah.
And it's like, I need this person to go away thinking I'm the most fantastic person alive.
That's what I do.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I did. Yeah. It's so funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wow, we're on a similar journey.
We really are.
I love that for us.
Me too. We're growing.
Shittest piece of advice you've received?
Caitlin, these are so hard. I should have prepped these. Right.
I do wonder whether I should send them to people in advance, but
I mean, you'd have got better answers out of me if I'm honest.
Well, the podcast was there for you to listen to, Eliot.
Yeah, but I didn't have a pen and paper.
Well, I like really it off the cuff. Yeah. I want an honest answer.
Okay, worst piece of advice I've been given. Oh, your school days are the best days of your life.
Is that advice or a statement?
Yeah, when it's like, enjoy it because these are the best days of your life. Awful.
That's terrible.
Did people say that to you?
Did they? I'd say like more like my my 20s, best years of my life, which I still disagree with.
Yeah, I feel like anybody saying really enjoy this because
don't put that pressure on me.
It's the best days of your life is such bad advice because I'm so sorry for you, sir. Usually, because what you don't have nice things, you're not aiming for anything. Like, what's going on, man? Like, is it kind of back to what I said before of like finding good and bad things about each time? I just always find it quite a bleak thing to say. And it makes everybody feel anxious that their lives are slipping away from them.
Yeah, 100%.
Which is not a way anybody wants to feel.
No.
That's a real, that's an ick piece of advice for me.
Yeah. And also like, I guess within school it's because there's like structure and less responsibilities, but I was fucking miserable at school.
Oh, me too.
So if someone was saying that to me, I'd be like, oh my, this cannot be the peak.
No.
Tell me no, because it's only going to go downhill from here. Are you crazy? I have no friends.
Me too. I was like, but I think I was so like, this can't be true, that it's not advice I've ever taken on, therefore, about any period of my life.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if that was true for someone, then maybe my 30s are going to be great, or my 40s, or anywhere past that. I don't know.
It's such pressure to put on someone as well.
Yeah.
And it definitely speaks more to the person saying it than the person receiving it. It's
Definitely.
like, make the most of this because I was so happy then.
Yeah.
And if we could swap places.
Which is true. Actually, maybe giving advice is a really exposing thing, because everything you advise people is really exposing, good or bad. But it definitely tells them something about you.
Yeah. Don't stick your head in an oven. Someone's probably done that.
Yeah, sure.
That was a bad example. Okay, shit you wish you'd known sooner.
That I'm queer. Wish I'd known that sooner.
Mm-hmm.
Quite a boring answer.
Oh.
Definitely wish I'd known that sooner. That would have spent.
When did you discover?
Well, I mean, the cliche answer obviously is that I always knew a bit.
Yeah.
But I think it's less that I always like. I'm quite jealous of people, who are like, oh, I knew from the word go. It was in me. I always feel like a slightly like a B- queer when the people say that. I'm like, oh man. But I think it was something I was anxious about because I think maybe again of our age group / my a few months older age group. I don't know if this resonates with you, but I feel like the first that I was hearing of queerness was very rarely positive.
Yeah. Well, I mean, queer was a derogatory term.
Totally.
Like that's very recently that's become the kind of catch-all empowering phrase.
Yeah, and to be honest, I don't think I heard it very often, but hearing like gay or whatever, like that was such a
bad thing
interchangeable thing for like, oh, it's so gay when we were growing up, and I think that's probably the first time I heard the word. And I asked my mum what it meant, and she was very lovely and positive about it, but it doesn't take away from the fact that you first hear it in a negative way. Yeah. So I think it was a source of anxiety rather than like a deep held belief. So I'd have like bad dreams.
Shame.
About it a lot, like lots of shame, and worry, which kind of blocked me from doing any fun sort of secret crushes or fantasies or anything like that, because I was just so repressed that I never really did it.
I feel as well, to be a female who is gay, like growing up, there was less role models for that. Like, I feel like we had lots of male gay friends growing up because of where we were and who we were hanging out with. The theatre. And that to me was like, I understood that more almost than being like a lesbian or
I don't remember any.
I don't remember anyone really.
I don't remember any like. I don't think there was. Apologies if both of us have forgotten you or didn't know. But I think that would have made a big difference. And even stuff like.
But I just mean in like
in
the
pop
celebrity,
culture.
The celebrity world. Like I remember, I was saying this to my friend the other day. I think the first person that I heard of was like Will Young when he came out after Pop Idol.
Yeah, me too.
And I was like, what is gay? That's props to Will Young.
Actually, a much nicer way of finding out rather than somebody at my primary school being like, you're gay, which is how I heard it the first time. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so I was 20 basically. Long answer, but officially, and that actually. There was a bit of angst, but then it's been lovely. I highly recommend everyone out there. It's actually turns out super nice. But I really wish I got there earlier. The other thing about representation, I feel exactly of the age I was, is that when there started to be some like women kissing each other on screen, it would be like very angst ridden, and it was like Skins or
super femme, still for the male gaze.
Totally.
So,
but it was more that it was. And Skins, of course, a great show in many ways. But I think as a kind of nerdier teen who was scared of all of those people, I think I was like, well, I'm not that. Like, that's like now a thing that I can't imagine being, because I am watching Anne of Green Gables and Spooks, and there's no gays there. So
far like, less angsty.
So what I'm not doing is like crying in a toilet at a cool house party. Just at bad ones, and that was much later. So I think that probably slowed me down a little bit as well, because even the few people that I knew in real life felt like they were, I don't know, edgier, more alternative than I was.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. Thank you for sharing that. We now reach the point where it is a shit shot. And for anyone listening who doesn't know, this is a photo that might be on Instagram or it might be a media photo that to the outside eye looks like you had your shit together, when in actual fact, you didn't.
Okay, so I've got a kind of weird one for this.
Mhm.
It's a bit left field.
Okay.
It's not anything specific, because I did think of some specific ones and then I decided that it was too revealing about my life. So I've decided to do any photo that feels like a kind of press shot or like a photo shoot, of which I've done maybe one
Okay.
or two.
Don't downplay yourself.
But one where it's like a bit glam, do you know what I mean? And I feel like it's that people make an assumption either way, that either I've super got my shit together in that photo
Right.
or I super don't. And the way that people comment on it is very revealing of which one they think it is.
Right.
So it'll be like, don't listen to the haters. I think you look great. That sort of energy. Where I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I
actually wasn't.
actually wasn't.
It also kind of draws your eye to the haters.
Yeah. Which I will say has bled into my personal life, where someone thought it was okay in a club to be like, don't listen to anyone. I think you're really fit. And I was like,
God.
who are we?
Who's whispering in this?
Who are the haters in this club? So I think that's a weird assumption, is that I somehow need like bucking up about my general
Or
appearance.
there's like constantly people guarding you away from like, just don't go over there because it's a load of haters.
All these invisible mob with like pitchforks being like, how dare you look this way, and be watched by people on television. Or people think, this bitch, we're going to take her down a peg. And they usually are in my DMs. And it's not loads now, but I think when like Winx was first big, there was a lot of this, that it would be like, oh, I don't know if you've heard, but you look dreadful. Like, you're the whatever one, and da-da-da. I'm not going to dignify it with repeating it.
No.
And that's weird, because I'm like, is the aim that you're jealous, or that you think I'm very arrogant, or like you think somebody needs to let me know that I don't look a way that you've assumed I think I look? I don't know.
I think it's a jealousy thing, and probably they relate, and it's like getting out their demons that like they're self-conscious of.
Yeah.
And how dare you exist happily in a way that they're miserable.
Totally. And I think forgetting that, and that can, so yeah, I think it's like not assuming that I either do or don't have my shit together. And it's that thing where like for those kind of days, the thing that I can relate it to everyday life is like, you've been in a changing room and you've grabbed a few things off the rack and you've put them on, and it's very rarely like, I feel amazing under these lights, but it will be like, oh, okay, I'll get this thing and like whatever. So you're sort of in two realms. And then also when you have to have like a group photo at a wedding or something, and you're like, I don't want to be in this, and it's going to be one person's
you have
photo.
no control.
Yeah.
But it's a weird part of the job, isn't it, that like having a social media presence means that we are able to receive these messages from people, and something that you don't go into acting for.
Totally. And I feel like there was like a little bit of press commentary, like when Normal People came out, there was stuff that was like, oh, and not like, this is the normal body and normal people, whatever. And obviously a privilege to be written about at all. Yeah. We know all publicity is good, but I was also like,
especially when Paul Mescal's in that.
Exactly. But I'm like, sometimes it would be nice if, rather than writing those articles or those tweets or whatever, you could just say, what a nice actor. Seems like she did her job well. I'm like, I'm not there to advertise my body.
Exactly. But in a lot of shows, and you know, even like musicians, like women mainly become advocates for something that they haven't necessarily consented to be an advocate for.
Yeah.
And it is massively gendered.
Yeah, I think so. And so to the shit shot thing, just generally don't assume I have my shit together enough to hear your comments on my body. Really. And even if I felt the best I've ever felt in my life, I still don't super want to hear them. So
love that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, Eliot Salt.
Yes.
Have you got your shit together?
No. Not at all. I don't. I feel very like I have my shit together for gorgeous minutes of the day. And a lot of the time I'm like, it could all be snatched away at any time. I have lots of luck and lots of privileges and lots of lovely things in my life. But most of those things don't feel like shit that I have gathered together. Although I'm sure that in some ways they are, but you know.
I think you've gathered some shit.
Yeah, I feel.
Don't do yourself the disservice. You have.
I'm going to say I feel very lucky, but not entirely composed. So I think lots of luck and lots of chaos, and maybe that's great.
That's life, baby.
Yeah, maybe having your shit together isn't all it's cracked up to be.
I don't think it is. Thank you very much. The end.